We are now into the very, very last session, and this is a session for you. Okay, so if you're on a table on your own, you might want to join a table with some other people, because I'm going to ask you to have some table discussions. And we're going to ask 3 questions where we want to get your feedback. I'm going to ask you to discuss in your tables for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then answer a poll question so we get some feedback from you. Does that make sense? Does it make sense? Yes, hooray, good. Right, so if you could, in your tables, here is the first discussion question. It's going to, I literally want you to discuss for about 5 to 7 minutes. And the question is, have you identified opportunities for unusual partnerships? There it is, at this RBF. There, the question is on the screens. And the obvious one follow-up from that is, and are you going to follow them up? Okay, so have you identified opportunities for what we've been calling unusual partnerships? So I'd like you to share with the others on your table whether you've actually just found any of these. You don't have to run for the door, by the way. So discussing your tables, and then we're going to open up to a live poll. That's where it gets really dangerous, and I'm going to see what you said. Okay, so for 5 or 10 minutes, just very quickly, that's the question. Have you identified opportunities for unusual partnerships? Go. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 more minutes on this question. 2 more minutes. Unusual partnerships. Spotted opportunities. Okay, 1 more minute, your last minute. Okay, right. I've just been asked if I can be included as an unusual partnership, which is, thank you. Right, this is where it gets very interesting. And I've also noticed a few people looking through their list of business cards they've collected, which is also great. So probably trying to decide, putting them into two piles, unusual or unusual. Right, so this is where it gets really difficult. So if you go onto your app and you reload it or open it, you will find that polling question is on your app, and you can just click on it. Start the top one there, just look at the top one to start with. It says identified opportunities for unusual partnerships with RBF. And you click on it and it says take the poll, and you have one of those four answers. Yes with my own, you can only answer one of them. Yes with my own sector, yes across sectors, no, I already have the partners I need, or no, partnerships create too many challenges. So if we could vote, please, I'd like to see this get up to around 40 or 50 votes, given how many people are in the room. So could we vote? We've got 20 votes, keep going, it counts them for us. Keep voting, come on everybody. I want votes. Have we found the app, everybody? Okay, keep going. Okay, are we happy with how to use the app? Let's keep voting. I'm sure we've got more than that, many people in the room. Okay, so we'll stop there. For those of you who haven't had a chance to vote, you can keep voting, actually. It stays open. There we go, it's still going. So, well, that's quite encouraging, isn't it? If the two people who, oh, no, partnerships create too many challenges. Is somebody winding me up, or do they want to say something? If anybody wants to volunteer on the no, I'd love to hear from them if they've got a challenge. So, we have 89% who found yes. They've found good unusual partnership challenges or opportunities, a couple who have got the partners they need, which is fine, and one or two who don't think they want partnerships because they're too challenging. But that's really great feedback for us. It sounds like we've set up the right sort of sessions, the right sort of meetings. So the second question, thank you for that. The second question, again, I want you to discuss in your tables. Can we get the second question up, please? The second theme of the conference was around inclusive growth for sustainable development. Can inclusive growth help to deliver the SDGs, and how? Okay, so again, I'd like you to discuss on the tables. Do you think as a result of being here, you've seen new ideas, new thoughts, you've heard new provocations about inclusive business models that you might want to think about when you take them back to your places of work? So in your little groups, again, if you could discuss for another 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll vote on this one. So, do we think inclusive growth can help sustainable development goals? Discuss, go. Okay, 2 more minutes of discussion. 2 more minutes. Last minute. Okay, so hopefully you've had enough time to discuss this particular question. Need more time? If you look on your app, I can see that a whole load of you have already dived into the app and looked at the next question. There you go. The next question is there. Can inclusive growth help deliver the SDGs? You can only answer one of these, remember, so you've got to prioritize. Inclusive growth reduces inequalities. Inclusive growth accelerates delivering the goals. Inclusive growth will not be beneficial to my business, or inclusive growth won't help deliver on the goals. So we've got quite a lot of voting already going on. Please carry on voting if you haven't. Okay, well, you can all see where we're ending up here. So I am absolutely delighted to see that you all, hopefully you all came in believing it would be beneficial, but it's fantastic everybody still thinks that, and most thinking they will help deliver the goals. I think particularly here in Africa, by the way. Okay, and then the last question I had is not one which we need to have a discussion on. This is for my own curiosity, really. Can we put up the last question, which is just a question about how many new connections have you made which you think have been valuable over the last 2 days? Can we get that question up and then poll that one, please, if possible? Have we got the last poll? It's coming. So how many new worthwhile connections have you made? 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, or 20 plus? Okay. So it looks like I ought to have had a 0 as well as, and then gone to a 1 to 5, just in case nobody's met anybody. So it looks like we're centering at somewhere around 5-ish, with a few who've been networking very, very hard and made 20 plus. Well done, you. Of course, the point of asking this question is what I'd like from you is the commitment to actually follow up on them. Follow up on those connections you've made to create those unusual partnerships and actually start to make a difference and take something new away from this conference that you hadn't had before. Okay, thank you. Let's take that poll down. So can I just close the conference completely now? Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your discussion. That's the end of the conference. It's now down to you. It's down to you to use those connections, think about those unusual partnerships you've been just discussing, and take them back to your places of work. All too often we have lots and lots of talk and lots of ideas at these sort of events, and then we don't do anything with them. So let's actually go and commit to ourselves to go and do something different. I just want to summarize what I've heard over the last 2 days under 5 headings. The first was partnerships. Of course, it was a theme of the conference, so it's not surprising that that's top of my list. I think everybody agreed that partnerships are critical, but not that usual style of partnership. We need something different. We need to re-energize partnerships that deliver tangible results. We've been talking about partnerships for years. We're talking about a different type of partnership, across value chains, both horizontally and vertically. And for me, what was interesting was hearing the ingredients of success for a partnership. A clear vision and goal. Trust and transparency with no hidden agendas. An actionable implementation plan. We heard on the first day about how a successful partnership actually ends up with implementation, not just talk. We heard the phrase leadership, leadership, leadership. But then we were reminded this afternoon, but not everyone can be the leader. Some people have to accept that they will be led. And we heard they take time and they take patience, but that's worth investing in order to develop and deliver your partnership. And we heard the idea of companies having a CCO, a Chief Coordination Officer, to actually help to build these partnerships together. And I loved Jenny's phrase this afternoon, developing a good partnership is not a skill, it's a mindset. So some really interesting and I think tangible thoughts around partnerships. The second was on this theme of inclusive business. They're often enabled by partnerships, of course. Inclusive business often is. And we heard from many people that for business, they are not eroding value, but generally are creating value. I talked about the trade-on. It's this idea of finding the inclusive business model that's good for you and good for society. In the feedback sessions from the workshops, we heard about this particularly in the context of smallholder farmers and community engagement, and the need to give those smaller organizations the distance to communities, give them access to the markets, and give them access to state-of-the-art technology and state-of-the-art know-how, so they can increase their productivity, they can increase their effectiveness, which will bring them out of marginalization. We then heard about government policy. In a number of sessions we heard that robust, long-term government vision builds confidence and enables investment to flow. That's critical. So a message back to government is we have to have stable, visionary, long-term planning. We heard very specifically that countries which are leading on the climate change agenda and the SDG agenda tend to have progressive and long-term policy environments. We heard in almost every session, and it slightly surprised me, I'll be honest, about education and awareness. But it wasn't education just in the context of SDG 4. It was education of our youth, education of our business leaders, education of our consumers. In fact, it was pretty much education of everyone. Everyone needs to get and understand this new paradigm, this new resource-scarce paradigm to bring everybody through out of poverty and into equality. And the fifth and final was something we touched on in the first day, which is about the interconnectivity of the goals. One action can lead to many outcomes as they affect the targets and the goals. This was again raised in almost every point in every session, and the message was given to us a couple of times by Hakim El Haita, that climate change is key. If we don't fix climate change, a number of the other goals and targets just can't be fixed. So this interconnectivity is really important. Again, I would urge you to take that back to your workplaces, to think about not just in a silo one target, but how does this target impact across other areas as well? I'm delighted that everybody has been talking passionately about seeking to be part of the solution, trying to work towards delivering the change we need, whether it's UN agencies, whether it's government ministers, NGOs, and of course, us business. And as my final thought, I've taken 4 different quotes I heard over the 2 days, and I've stuck them into one quote. So it's not attributable to anybody, because it's 4 different quotes. But I thought this summed up the mindset we should leave this conference with, which is that business cannot be a passive partner. We need commitment from business all the way. We need to increase the energy and pace of the SDGs, and we cannot and dare not fail the people of Africa. Those are my concluding comments. Thank you. Just by way of closing the conference, can I just thank all our speakers, our facilitators, our panelists. It's been a fascinating 2 days. I warned you it would be information overload. Hopefully you can go and take a nice weekend break and sort of consume all that information. Thank you all to our volunteers who've made sure everyone's been in the right place at the right time. Of course, to our supporters and our sponsors with whom this can't be done. Of course, to Global Initiatives for having the vision to bring this conference to Africa and for supporting and putting it on so well. And of course, thank you to all of you for participating with engaged, active participation. And please remember that feedback on the app. We do want the feedback so we can improve these conferences every time. Finally, we recycle the badges, so please take your badge and give it back as you leave at one of the drop-off points. And finally, have a safe trip home, everybody. Thank you. See you next time.